The Revenant is a 2015 American epic Western action drama film directed by Alejandro González Inarritu. The screenplay by Mark L. Smith and Inarritu is based in part on Michael Punk's 2002 novel The Revenant, which describes frontiersman Hugh Glass's experiences in 1823. The film stars Leonardo DiCaprio as Glass, alongside Tom Hardy, Domhnall Gleeson and Will Poulter. In August 2001, Akiva Goldsman purchased Punk's manuscript. Inarritu signed on to direct The Revenant in August 2011. In April 2014, after several delays due to other projects, Inarritu confirmed that he was beginning work on it and that DiCaprio had been cast in the lead role. Principal photography began in October 2014. Location and crew concerns delayed production from May to August 2015. The Revenant premiered at TCL Chinese Theater in Los Angeles, California, on December 16, 2015. It had a limited release on December 25 and a wide release on January 8, 2016 by 20th Century Fox. It was a commercial success, grossing $533 million and becoming Inarritu's highest-grossing film. It received critical acclaim, with praise for DiCaprio's performance and Emmanuel Lubezki's cinematography. 567. It won 3 Golden Globe Awards and 5 BAFTA Awards, including Best Film at both ceremonies. At the 88th Academy Awards, the film received 12 nominations, including Best Picture and Best Supporting Actor, Hardy. It won the Academy Awards for Best Director, Inarritu, his second consecutive in that category, Best Actor, DiCaprio, his first after 5 previous nominations, and Best Cinematography, Emmanuel Lubezki, his third consecutive in that category. DiCaprio also won the Golden Globe Award, the Screen Actors Guild Award, the BAFTA Award, and the Critics' Choice Award for Best Actor. Plot: Fur trapper Hugh Glass watches as American soldiers burn down a Native American village on the Great Plains. Years later, in 1823, during the Arikara War, Glass guides Captain Andrew Henry's trappers through the territory of the present-day Dakotas. While he and his half-Pawnee son, Hawk, are hunting, the company's camp is attacked by an Arikara war party which is seeking to recover its chief's abducted daughter, Pauka. Many of the trappers are killed during the fight, and the rest of them escape onto a boat. Guided by Glass, the survivors begin a trek to Fort Kiowa on foot because Glass believes traveling down the Missouri River will make them vulnerable. After docking, the crew stash their pelts near the shore. While scouting game, Glass is mauled and left near death by a grizzly bear. Fearing another Arikara attack, trapper John Fitzgerald argues that the group must mercy kill Glass and keep moving. Henry agrees, but he is unable to pull the trigger. Instead, he offers to pay anyone who will stay with Glass and bury him after he dies. When the only volunteers are Hawk and the young Jim Bridger, Fitzgerald, wanting the money to recoup his losses from the abandoned pelts, also agrees to stay. After the others leave, Fitzgerald attempts to smother Glass but is stopped when Hawk intervenes. Fitzgerald stabs Hawk to death as Glass watches helplessly. The next morning, Fitzgerald convinces Bridger, who is unaware of Hawk's murder, that the Arikara are approaching and they must abandon Glass. At first Bridger protests, but he ultimately follows Fitzgerald after the latter leaves Glass half buried alive in a makeshift grave. Bridger leaves behind a canteen on which he had engraved a spiral symbol. The next morning, Fitzgerald admits to Bridger that there are no pursuing Arikara. They reach the fort, and Fitzgerald falsely reports to Henry that Hawk vanished and Glass died. Bridger is complicit in the lie about Glass's death, but remains unaware of Hawk's murder. Glass starts an arduous journey through the wilderness, bringing Bridger's canteen with him. He performs a crude cauterization of his wounds and eludes the pursuing Arikara by jumping into river rapids. He encounters Pawnee refugee Haikuk, who tells Glass that revenge is in the Creator's hands. The men share bison meat and travel together. As a storm approaches, Haikuk constructs a sweat lodge for the feverish Glass to shelter in. After a hallucinogenic experience in the lodge, Glass emerges to discover that French-Canadian hunters have lynched Haikuk. Glass infiltrates the hunters' camp and sees their leader, Toussaint, raping Pauka. Glass frees her, she castrates Toussaint and flees while Glass kills several hunters and recovers Haikuk's horse, leaving Bridger's canteen behind. The following morning, Glass is ambushed by the Arikara and driven over a cliff on his horse. He survives the night by disemboweling the dead horse and sheltering inside its carcass. A French survivor staggers into Fort Kiowa, and Bridger recognizes the man's spiral-engraved canteen. Believing that it was stolen, Henry organizes a search party to find Hawk. Fitzgerald, realizing that Glass is alive, empties the outpost safe and flees, intending to reach Texas. The search party finds the exhausted Glass. Furious, Henry orders the arrest of Bridger upon returning to the fort, but Glass vouches for him, saying Bridger was deceived by Fitzgerald, who murdered Hawk. Glass and Henry set out in pursuit of Fitzgerald. After the two men split up, Fitzgerald ambushes, kills, and scalps Henry. Glass props up Henry's corpse on his horse to act as a decoy, taking its place himself to ambush Fitzgerald and shoot him in the shoulder. He pursues Fitzgerald to a riverbank, where they engage in a brutal fight. Glass is about to kill Fitzgerald, but he spots a band of Arikara downstream. He remembers Haikuk's words and pushes Fitzgerald downstream into the hands of the Arikara. Their chief, Elk Dog, kills Fitzgerald by stabbing and then scalping him, and the Arikara, who have found Pauka, spare Glass. Glass retreats into the mountains, where he is visited by his wife's spirit. Cast: Leonardo DiCaprio as Hugh Glass, Tom Hardy as John S. Fitzgerald, Domhnall Gleeson as Andrew Henry, Will Poulter as Jim Bridger, Forrest Goodluck as Hawk, Paul Anderson as Anderson, Christopher Jonah as Murphy, Dwayne Howard as Elk Dog, Melaneko as Pauka, Arthur Red Cloud as Haikuk, Lucas Haas as Jones, Brendan Fletcher as Fryman, Tom Gyrie as Billy Brother Trapper, Grace Dove as Hugh Glass's wife, Fabrice Ad as Toussaint. Production, Development, Director Alejandro G. Inarritu. Development of The Revenant began in August 2001, with producer Akiva Goldsman acquiring the rights to Michael Punk's then unpublished manuscript. 8. David Raby had written the film's script. 9. The production was picked up by Park Chan-wook, with Samuel L. Jackson in mind to star. Park later left the project. 10-11 The development stalled until 2010 when Mark L. Smith wrote a new adaptation of the novel for Steve Golan's anonymous content. In May 2010, Smith revealed that John Hillcoat was attached to direct the film and that Christian Bale was in negotiation to star. 12 Hillcoat left the project in October 2010. 11 Jean-François Richet was considered to replace him, but Alejandro G. Inarritu signed on to direct in August 2011. 11-13 Goldsman was also confirmed to be producing with Weed Road Pictures. 13 In November, New Regency Productions joined to produce with anonymous content, and 20th Century Fox was confirmed to be distributing the film. 14-15 days later, Inarritu stated that he was seeking Leonardo DiCaprio and Sean Penn for the two lead roles. 16. Once Inarritu agreed to direct, he began working with Smith on script rewrites. In an interview with Creative Screenwriting, Smith admitted that during this process, he was unsure if Inarritu would even be able to film some of the sequences they wrote. He recalled, "He would have some ideas and I would say, Alejandro, we can't pull this off. It's not going to work," and he would say, "Mark, trust me, we can do this." In the end, he was right. 17. The project was put on hold in March 2012, as New Regency hired Inarritu to direct an adaptation of Flim Flam Man, Jennifer Vogel's non-fiction book about her criminal father. 18 Penn was also under consideration for the lead role in that film. 19 In December 2012, Inarritu announced that his next film would be Birdman, or The Unexpected Virtue of Ignorance, a comedy drama about an actor who once played a famous superhero. He ended up winning the Academy Awards for Best Director and Best Original Screenplay, with the film winning Best Picture. Filming took place in March 2013. 20. The Revenant was scheduled to begin production right after Birdman wrapped. 21. A production budget of $60 million was granted, with $30 million funded by New Regency. Brett Ratner's Rat Pack Dune Entertainment, a joint venture between Ratner's Rat Pack Entertainment and Fox's former financing partner, Dune Entertainment, also funded the film. 14. Worldview Entertainment, which also co-financed Birdman, was originally set to fund the film but backed out in July 2014 due to the departure of CEO Christopher Woodrow. 14. 21-22 New Regency approached Fox for additional funding, but Fox declined, citing the pay-or-play contracts made for both DiCaprio and Tom Hardy, which would require that the actors be paid regardless of whether the film is completed. 22. Annapurna Pictures Megan Ellison entered negotiations to finance the film shortly after. 14-22 The Chinese company Guangdong Alpha Animation and Culture Company partially financed the film. 23. Filming. Principal photography for The Revenant began in October 2014. 24. A planned 2-week break from filming in December was extended to 6 weeks, which forced Tom Hardy to drop out of Suicide Squad. In February 2015, Inarritu, who shot the film using natural lighting, stated that production would last until the end of April or May, as the crew is shooting in such remote faraway locations that, by the time we arrive and have to return, we have already spent 40% of the day. 25, 26, 27 Ultimately, principal photography wrapped in August 2015. Citation needed. The waterfall scenes were filmed at the Kootenai Falls near Libby, Montana. Though the initial plan was to film the last scenes in Canada, the weather was ultimately too warm, leading the filmmakers to locations near the Rio Olivia in Tierra del Fuego, Argentina, with snow on the ground, to shoot the ending. 24-28. Crew members often complained about difficult filming, with many quitting or being fired. Mary Parent was then brought in as a producer. 24. Inarritu stated that some of the crew members had left the production, explaining that as a director, if I identify a violin that is out of tune, I have to take that from the orchestra. On his experience, DiCaprio stated, I can name 30 or 40 sequences that were some of the most difficult things I've ever had to do. Whether it's going in and out of frozen rivers, or sleeping in animal carcasses, or what I ate on set. I was enduring freezing cold and possible hypothermia constantly. 29-30. Hardy lightly wrestled Inarritu on set to release tension while during filming. 31. During the scene where Hugh and Hawk prayed, both DiCaprio and Lockwood had their eyes closed due to the cold weather condition. 32. Inarritu had stated that he originally wanted to film chronologically, a process that would have added $7 million to the production budget. 33. Later he confirmed that it was shot in sequence, though Hardy had stated that it was impossible due to weather conditions. 34-35 The terrain of the filming locations was not true to the actual Hugh Glass mauling story, which really occurred in modern-day South Dakota. In July 2015, it was reported that the budget had ballooned from the original $60 million to $95 million, and by the time production wrapped it had reached $135 million. 3. Visual effects. The visual effects were produced primarily by Industrial Light and Magic, ILM. Other companies, such as Moving Picture Company, MPC, and Cinesite, also created visual effects. 36. Music. Main article, The Revenant, soundtrack. The musical score was composed by Japanese musician Ryuichi Sakamoto and German electronic musician Alva Noto, with additional music composed by Bryce Dessner. 37 The main body of the score was recorded at the Seattle Music Scoring Stage in the Bastyr Chapel in Greater Seattle, Washington by musicians of the Northwest Sinfonia. Sakamoto conducted these sessions. Bryce Dessner's portion of the score was performed by the 25-piece Berlin-based orchestra known as STARGAZE under conductor Andre de Ritter. 3839 additional licensed music includes Become Ocean, the Pulitzer Prize and Grammy Award-winning work of John Luther Adams as recorded by the Seattle Symphony with conductor Ludovic Morlet, and an excerpt of Jetson Mila from French musician and composer Elaine Redig. 40 A soundtrack album was released online on December 25, 2015, and on CD on January 8, 2016. Milan Records released a vinyl pressing of the soundtrack in April 2016. 39. The score by Sakamoto and Noto was ruled ineligible for the Academy Award for Best Original Score at the 2016 Oscars, as it was deemed that it was assembled from the music of more than one composer. 41. Documentary. The movie was accompanied by a 44-minute documentary, named A World Unseen, highlighting the process of making the production. A World Unseen was released on January 21, 2016, on YouTube. 42-43 Elliot Roche served as its director. 44-45. Themes. In the Los Angeles Review of Books, critic Wei-Chi Dimmock compared The Revenant's themes with those addressed in the literary works of James Fenimore Cooper, particularly The Last of the Mohicans. Dimmock argues that the film reinterprets the concept of half-breeds from a derogatory idea that Cooper despised to an aesthetic way in which to see the world. She compared both works' protagonists Glass and Hawkeye as literary foils, with Glass living an inversion of the latter's biography and perspective. 46. In the documentary A World Unseen, the director stated that for The Revenant's main themes, he revisits the issues and concerns of intense parental and filial relations, which are readily recognizable as a recurrent theme from his previous works. Regarding the theme of revenge, he mentioned that the approach of vengeance in the film needs to be significantly tempered by anyone who would want to see vengeance as either an effective or useful moral to be applied in life. In the end, he said, there can only be a disappointment and lack of fulfillment for anyone who looks to revenge as providing a higher purpose for living or a life-defining purpose. 42-43. Historical accuracy. Cheyenne River Indian Reservation is in South Dakota. Glass's survival journey did not take place in the cold season, nor did it involve tall mountain ranges. The Guardian reported, the backstory about Glass's love for a Pawnee woman is fiction. It has been suggested the real Glass had such a relationship, but there's no firm evidence and no evidence that he had any children. As for the ending, it has been changed in one significant way. In real life, nobody got killed. 47. Canadian actor Roy Dupuis was strongly critical of the portrayal of French-Canadian voyageurs as murderous rapists. Dupuis was originally offered a role as a voyageur, but he rejected it due to perceptions of anti-French bias and historical inaccuracies. 48-49-50-51 According to Alan Greer, the Canada Research Chair of Colonial North America, generally the American traders had a worse reputation than the Canadians. 48. The filmmakers made a special point of emphasizing the importance of historical issues of ethnicity approached in the movie and represented in the mixed ethnic background of Hugh Glass's son portrayed in the film, portrayed as half Pawnee by Glass's wife, as relating to his own life and his identification with ethnic concerns. The director has referred to having encountered constant xenophobia and stated that, these constant and relentless xenophobic comments have been widely spread by the media without shame, embraced and cheered by leaders and communities around the U.S. The foundation of all this is so outrageous that it can easily be minimized as an SNL sketch, a mere entertainment, a joke. I debated with myself, if I should bring up this uncomfortable subject tonight, but in light of the constant and relentless xenophobic comments that have been expressed recently against my Mexican fellows, it is inevitable. 52. Bruce Bradley of True West magazine pointed out several anachronisms hinted in the film, such as John Fitzgerald talking about his father having friends in the Texas Rangers and about going to Texas and joining the army himself. However, in 1823, Texas was still part of Mexico and therefore would not have had an American army, let alone the Texas Rangers. Another anachronism involved Hugh Glass discovering a mountain of buffalo skulls while working his way to Fort Kiowa, despite the buffalo slaughter not occurring until the 1870s. 53. Native American culture. To portray Arikara culture accurately, the filmmakers hired several cultural consultants 54-55 and teamed up with 2 linguists to provide faithful Arikara and Pawnee language lines for actors. 56-57 Haikuk, the Pawnee man who helps Glass survive, is played by a Navajo actor. 58 However, in one scene, a Pawnee character rescuing Glass is accompanied by a voiceover in Iñupiaq, which is spoken in Arctic Alaska, thousands of kilometers away and a different language family from Pawnee. The voiceover was a recording of Doreen Nutak Simmons 59 reading a poem from a John Luther Adams recording. The words originally came from an Inuk woman named Ivavnuk, an Angakok, shaman, and oral poet. 60. Release. The Revenant had a limited release in the United States on December 25, 2015, including Los Angeles, making it eligible for the 88th Academy Awards before being released nationwide on January 8, 2016. 61-62 The film opened in Australia on January 7, 2016, and in the United Kingdom on January 15, 2016. 63-64 In the Philippines, the film's release date was originally set for January 27, 2016, but it was eventually delayed 1 week to February 3, 2016. 65-66 Although studios initially chose not to pursue a theatrical release in China, following its 3 wins at the 88th Academy Awards on February 28, 2016, the film was granted a release in China but with several cuts. 67 It was released on March 18, 2016. 23 For the film's 10th anniversary, it was released exclusively on IMAX screens for 2 days only, February 26, 2026 and March 1, 2026. 68. Home media. The DVD, Blu-ray, and 4K Ultra HD Blu-ray were released on April 12, 2016, in the US. 69 Opening sales of the DVD along with online streaming orders placed The Revenant as #1 in sales at Amazon. 70 Distribution to major rental outlets in the US was done on May 17, 2016. Piracy. On December 20, 2015, less than 1 week before its release, screener copies of The Revenant were leaked online. The FBI linked this to Alcon Entertainment CEO Andrew Kosave, who denied responsibility. 71 In October 2016, a former 20th Century Fox employee was fined $1.12 million in a separate case for uploading both The Revenant and the Peanuts movie online. 72. Reception. Box office. The Revenant grossed $183.6 million in the United States and Canada and $349.3 million in other countries for a worldwide total of $533 million, against a production budget of $135 million. 4 In March 2016, before the film had completed its theatrical domestic and international runs, Deadline Hollywood calculated the net profit of the film to be $61.6 million when factoring together all expenses and revenues. 73. In North America, The Revenant opened in limited release on December 25, 2015, and over the weekend grossed $474,560 from 4 theaters in New York City and Los Angeles, $118,640 per screen, finishing 23rd at the box office. 74 It was the second biggest theater average of 2015 behind the $130,000 four-screen debut of Steve Jobs. 75. The film earned a total of $1.6 million from its 2-week limited run before expanding wide on January 8, 2016, across 3,371 theaters. 76. 77. It earned $2.3 million from its early Thursday preview showings from 2,510 theaters. 76. On its opening day, the film earned $14.4 million, ranking first at the box office. 78. The film grossed $39.8 million in its opening weekend from 3,375 theaters, exceeding initial projections by 70%, and finishing second at the box office behind Star Wars: The Force Awakens, $42.4 million, which was on its fourth weekend of play. It was the director's biggest opening of all time, and the fourth biggest for DiCaprio and supporting actor Tom Hardy. 79. Critics noted that The Force Awakens had an advantage from playing at 781 more theaters, family-friendly Sunday matinees, and all North American IMAX theaters. 79. Nevertheless, The Revenant played very balanced across the US and overperformed in all states except the Northeast region. 79. Its wide release weekend is among the top openings in January. 80. It topped the box office in its fifth weekend overall and third weekend in wide release after competing with Ride Along 2 in its second weekend. It added $16 million in its third weekend, which was down 49.7% but topped the box office, despite a blizzard blanketing most of the East Coast which reportedly hurt many films' box office performance. 81. 82. 83. 84. The following weekend it was overtaken by Fox's own animated movie Kung Fu Panda 3, thereby topping the box office for one weekend. 85. Following the announcement of the Oscar nominees on January 14, The Revenant witnessed the biggest boost among the Best Picture category, jumping from $54.1 million to $170.5 million, an increase of plus 215% up to the Oscar ceremony in the weekend ending February 28. 86. Outside North America, the film secured a release in 78 countries. 87. It made $20.5 million from 2,407 screens in just 18 markets, placing behind The Force Awakens at the international box office chart and first among newly released films. 88. The following weekend, it added $32.3 million from 25 markets on 4,849 screens. 87. The film topped the international box office in its third weekend, the same weekend when it topped the US box office, overtaking The Force Awakens with $33.7 million from 48 markets. 89. In the United Kingdom and Ireland, it took the number one spot with $7.87 million or £5.2 million, $7.4 million, from 589 theaters and remained there for a second weekend, declining by 24% with £3.86 million, $5.5 million, and for a third weekend. 87. 90. 91. 92. 93. Similarly, in Russia, it passed The Force Awakens to take the top spot with $7.5 million from 1,063 screens. 88. In France, it has the biggest opening day in Paris and the third biggest opening weekend of 2016 with $8.2 million. 94. It also opened at number 1 in Mexico, $5.1 million, Spain, $4 million, the Netherlands, $1.3 million, Belgium, $1.1 million, Argentina, $955,000, Sweden, $914,000, South Korea, Denmark, Norway, Israel, Egypt, and Portugal among other markets. 87. 89. 92. 95. In Germany, $4.6 million, and Australia, $2.9 million, it debuted at number 2 both behind The Force Awakens and in Brazil, $2.17 million, behind the Ten Commandments. 88. 95. It had one of the top 10 openings of all time for a Fox film, not accounting for inflation, in South Korea with $5.7 million and went on to top the box office there for a second weekend with $3.22 million despite cold weather affecting theater attendance resulting in low box office performance. 96-97 in Russia, though not opening at number 1, it topped the box office in its second weekend with $4.40 million more than The Force Awakens, and went on to the top for a third weekend with $3.6 million. 87-98 in China, it had an opening day of around $11 million from more than 11,000 screens, including $250,000 in midnight previews, and $23 million in 2 days. 99-100-101 in its opening weekend, it grossed $31 million, coming in second place behind the animated Zootopia. IMAX comprised $2.3 million on 278 screens. 102 in terms of total earnings. Its largest markets outside of the US and Canada are China, $58.6 million, the United Kingdom, $32.8 million, Germany, $28.7 million, and France, $28.2 million. 103-104 The film opened in Japan on March 23. 94-105. Critical response. On Rotten Tomatoes, the film has an approval rating of 78%, based on 401 reviews, with an average rating of 7.80/10. The website's critical consensus reads, "As starkly beautiful as it is harshly uncompromising, The Revenant uses Leonardo DiCaprio's committed performance as fuel for an absorbing drama that offers punishing challenges and rich rewards." 106. On Metacritic, the film has a weighted average score of 76 out of 100, based on 50 critics, indicating generally favorable reviews. 107 audiences polled by CinemaScore gave the film an average grade of B+ on an A+ to F scale, and post-track reported audiences gave it an overall positive score of 85% and a 59% definite recommend. 108-109. The performances of Leonardo DiCaprio and Tom Hardy garnered widespread critical acclaim, earning them Academy Award nominations for Best Actor and Best Supporting Actor respectively, with DiCaprio winning his category, marking his first Oscar win. Reviewers cited in a CBS News survey of critics highly praised DiCaprio's performance, referring to it as an astonishing testament to his commitment to a role and as an anchoring performance of ferocious 200% commitment. 6 Peter Travers of Rolling Stone called DiCaprio's acting a virtuoso performance, thrilling in its brute force and silent eloquence. 110 Writing for Vulture, David Adelstein called the film a tour de force and bleak as hell but considerably more beautiful, but noted it had traditional masculinity instead of a search for what illuminates man's inhumanity to man. 111. Justin Chang of Variety wrote Inarritu increasingly succumbs to the air of grim over-determination that has marred much of his past work, and it was an imposing vision, but also an inflated and emotionally stunted one. 6 Stephanie Zacharuk, writing for Time magazine, gave a positive review to the film stating, Inarritu may have fashioned The Revenant as the ultimate endurance test, but as Glass, DiCaprio simply endures. He gives the movie a beating heart, offering it up, figuratively speaking, alive and bloody on a platter. He is the most visceral effect in the movie, revenge served warm. Bon appetit. 5. Richard Brody of The New Yorker was critical of the film, and said that Emmanuel Lubezki's images were mere pictorial ornaments to Alejandro G. Inarritu's bland theatrical stagings. 112 A critic for Santa Barbara Independent considered it a remake of Man in the Wilderness, 1971. 113. The Revenant was ranked 22nd on Metacritic's and 100th on Rotten Tomatoes list of best films of 2015. 114, 115, 116, 117. Accolades. Main article, list of accolades received by The Revenant. Leonardo DiCaprio's performance was widely acclaimed and ultimately won him the Academy Award for Best Actor, the first of his career after 5 previous nominations. The Revenant has received numerous award nominations and wins, particularly for DiCaprio's performance, Inarritu's direction, and Lubezki's cinematography. At the 88th Annual Academy Awards, Inarritu won Best Director for the second consecutive time, Emmanuel Lubezki won Best Cinematography for the third consecutive time, and DiCaprio won his first award for Best Actor. Hardy lost the award for Best Supporting Actor to Mark Rylance for Bridge of Spies, and the film itself lost Best Picture to Spotlight. 118. At the 73rd Golden Globe Awards, it won 3 awards: Best Motion Picture, Drama, Best Director, and Best Actor, Drama. It also had a nomination for Best Original Score. 119. On January 14, 2016, the film received 12 Academy Award nominations, more than any other film at the ceremony, including Best Picture and Best Director, as well as Best Actor and Best Supporting Actor. 120. On February 14, 2016, the film received the most awards at 69th British Academy Film Awards out of 8 nominations, with 5, including Best Film, Best Director, Best Cinematography, Best Sound, and Best Leading Actor. 121. It received 9 Critics' Choice Awards nominations, winning 2 Best Actor and Best Cinematography. 122. Tom Hardy won the Best British Actor Award at the London Film Critics Circle and was runner-up for Best Supporting Actor at Dallas, Fort Worth Film Critics Association. 123. 124. DiCaprio was awarded Outstanding Performance by a Male Actor in a Leading Role Award at 22nd Screen Actors Guild Awards, and Inarritu received Outstanding Directing, Feature Film Award at 68th Directors Guild of America Awards. 125. It received 5 Satellite Awards nominations, winning the award of Best Actor for DiCaprio. 126. On May 2, 2016, Time magazine included both DiCaprio and Inarritu in its issue of the 100 Most Influential People of 2015, with a cover photograph of DiCaprio on the magazine. John Kerry, then the U.S. Secretary of State, wrote a short testimonial to DiCaprio for this issue of Time, stating that DiCaprio's dedication drives him to succeed, and that's how he takes himself back 200 years to create an Oscar-winning, bear-brawling, powerhouse performance in The Revenant. 127. In July 2025, it was one of the films voted for the Reader's Choice edition of the New York Times list of the 100 best movies of the 21st century, finishing at number 271. Leonardo Wilhelm DiCaprio, /DiCaprio/ Italian, DiCaprio, born November 11, 1974, is an American actor and film producer. Known for his work in biographical and period films, he is the recipient of numerous accolades, including an Academy Award, an Actor Award, a British Academy Film Award, an Emmy Award, a Silver Bear, and 3 Golden Globes. His films as a leading actor have grossed $7 billion worldwide, and he has been placed 8 times in annual rankings of the world's highest paid actors. Born in Los Angeles, DiCaprio began his career in the late 1980s by appearing in television commercials. He had a recurring role in the sitcom Parenthood, 1990 to 1991, and had his first major film part as Arthur Tobias Wolff in This Boy's Life, 1993. He received critical acclaim and his first Academy Award nomination for playing a developmentally disabled boy in What's Eating Gilbert Grape, 1993. DiCaprio achieved international stardom with the star-crossed romances Romeo plus Juliet, 1996, and Titanic, 1997. After the latter became the highest-grossing film in the world at the time, he reduced his workload for a few years. In an attempt to shed his image of a romantic hero, DiCaprio sought roles in other genres, including the 2002 crime dramas Catch Me If You Can and Gangs of New York. The latter marked the first of his many successful collaborations with director Martin Scorsese. DiCaprio continued to gain acclaim for his performances in the biopic The Aviator, 2004, the political thriller Blood Diamond, 2006, the crime drama The Departed, 2006, and the romantic drama Revolutionary Road, 2008. He later made environmental documentaries and starred in several high-profile directors' successful projects, including the thrillers Inception and Shutter Island, both 2010, the western Django Unchained, 2012, the romantic drama The Great Gatsby, 2013, the biopic The Wolf of Wall Street, 2013, the survival drama The Revenant, 2015, for which he won the Academy Award for Best Actor, the comedy drama Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, 2019, the crime drama Killers of the Flower Moon, 2023, and the action film One Battle After Another, 2025. DiCaprio is the founder of Appian Way Productions, a production company that has made some of his films, and the documentary series Greensburg, 2008 to 2010, and Leonardo DiCaprio Foundation, a non-profit organization devoted to promoting environmental awareness. A United Nations Messenger of Peace, he regularly supports charitable causes. In 2005, he was named a Commander of the Order of Arts and Letters for his contributions to the arts, and in 2016, he appeared in Time magazine's 100 Most Influential People in the World. DiCaprio was voted one of the 50 greatest actors of all time in a 2022 readers' poll by Empire magazine. Early life and acting background. Leonardo Wilhelm DiCaprio I was born on November 11, 1974, in Los Angeles, California. 2. He is the only child of Irmelin in Denberken, a legal secretary from Germany. 3. And George DiCaprio, an American underground comics artist and distributor. The couple met while attending college and moved to Los Angeles after graduating. 4. 5. George's paternal grandparents, Salvatore DiCaprio and Rosina Casella, were Italian. 6. 7. 8. While his mother, Olga Ann Jacobs, was of German descent. Irmelin's father, Wilhelm in Denberken, was German. 9. While her mother, Helene in Denberken, was a Russian immigrant living in Germany. 10. Some sources have falsely claimed that Helene was born in Odessa, Ukraine. There is no evidence that DiCaprio has any relatives of Ukrainian birth or heritage. 11. DiCaprio got his name because his pregnant mother first felt him kick while she was looking at a Leonardo da Vinci painting in the Uffizi Museum in Florence, Italy. 12. When he was a year old, his parents divorced after his father fell in love with another woman and moved out. 13. 14. To raise DiCaprio together, his parents moved into twin cottages with a shared garden in Echo Park, Los Angeles. 13. 15. DiCaprio's father lived with his girlfriend and her son, Adam Ferrar, with whom DiCaprio developed a close bond. 16. DiCaprio and his mother later moved to other neighborhoods, such as Los Feliz. 17. He has described his parents as bohemian in every sense of the word and as the people I trust the most in the world. 18. DiCaprio has mentioned growing up poor in a neighborhood plagued with prostitution, crime, and violence. 19. He was raised Catholic. 20. DiCaprio attended the Los Angeles Center for Enriched Studies for 4 years and later Seeds Elementary School. He enrolled at John Marshall High School 21-22 but disliked public school and wanted to audition for acting jobs instead. 19. He decided to drop out of high school, and later earned a General Equivalency Diploma, GED. 23. As a child, DiCaprio wanted to become either an actor or a marine biologist. He chose to pursue acting because he enjoyed imitating people and impersonating characters, and liked seeing people's reactions to his impressions. 24. According to DiCaprio, his interest in performing began at the age of 2, when he went on stage at a performance festival and danced spontaneously to a positive response from the crowd. 25. He was also motivated to learn acting when his stepbrother's appearance in a television commercial earned him $50,000. 26. DiCaprio has said in interviews that his first television appearance was in the children's series Romper Room, and that he was dismissed from the show for being disruptive. The show's host has denied that any children were removed from the show in this way. 27. 28. At age 11, DiCaprio almost quit acting to pursue breakdancing, after winning second place in a breakdancing competition in his mother's native Germany. 29. Starting at age 14, he appeared in several commercials for Matchbox cars, which he calls his first role. 27 DiCaprio also appeared in commercials for Kraft Singles, Bubble Yum, and Apple Jacks. 30 In 1989, he played the role of Glenn in 2 episodes of the television show The New Lassie. 31. At the beginning of his career, DiCaprio had difficulty finding an agent. When he finally found one, the agent suggested that he change his name to Lenny Williams to appeal to American audiences, which he refused to do. 32-33 DiCaprio remained jobless for a year and a half, even despite 100 auditions. Following this frustrating lack of success, DiCaprio was about to give up acting, but his father convinced him to persevere, and he continued to audition. After a talent agent, who knew a friend of his mother's, recommended him to casting directors, DiCaprio secured roles in about 20 commercials. 34. By the early 1990s, DiCaprio began acting regularly on television, beginning with a role in the pilot of The Outsiders, 1990, and one episode of the soap opera Santa Barbara, 1990, in which he played an alcoholic teenager. 35 Following this, DiCaprio was cast in Parenthood, a series based on the 1989 comedy film. To prepare for the role of Gary Buckman, a troubled teen, he analyzed Joaquin Phoenix's performance in the original film. 36 His work that year earned him 2 nominations at the 12th Youth in Film Awards: Best Young Actor in a Daytime Series for Santa Barbara and Best Young Actor starring in a new television series for Parenthood. 37 Around this time, he was a contestant on the children's game show Fun House. On the show he performed several stunts, including catching the fish inside a small pool using only his teeth. 38-39. Career. 1991 to 1996, early work and breakthrough. DiCaprio made his film debut in 1991 as the stepson of an unscrupulous landlord in the low-budget horror sequel Critters 3. A part he later described as your average, no depth, standard kid with blonde hair. 40 DiCaprio has stated that he prefers not to remember Critters 3, viewing it as possibly one of the worst films of all time and the kind of role he wanted to avoid in the future. 41 Later in 1991, he became a recurring cast member on the sitcom Growing Pains, playing Luke Brower, a homeless boy who is taken in by the show's central family. 42 Co-star Joanna Kearns recalls DiCaprio being especially intelligent and disarming for his age, but she noted that he was also mischievous and jocular on set, and often made fun of his co-stars. 43 DiCaprio was cast by the producers to appeal to young female audience, but his arrival did not improve the show's ratings and he left before the end of its run. 44 He was nominated for a Young Artist Award for Best Young Actor co-starring in a television series. 45 DiCaprio also had an uncredited role in 1991 in one episode of Roseanne. 46. Lasse Hallström holding a mic in his left hand and looking away from the camera. Lasse Hallström directed DiCaprio in What's Eating Gilbert Grape, 1993, for which he earned his first Academy Award nomination. In 1992, DiCaprio had a brief role in the first installment of the Poison Ivy film series 47 and was handpicked by Robert De Niro from a short list of 400 young actors to co-star with him in This Boy's Life. Adapted from the memoir by Tobias Wolff, the film focuses on the relationship between a rebellious teenager, Toby DiCaprio, and his mother, Ellen Barkin, and abusive stepfather, De Niro. 27-48-49 Director Michael Cotton Jones said that DiCaprio did not know how to behave on set. Accordingly, Cotton Jones used a strict mentoring style, after which DiCaprio's behavior began to improve. 43 Bill Jeberai of Rolling Stone found that the powerful bond between Barkin and DiCaprio elevated the film, praising DiCaprio's portrayal of his character's complex growth from a rebellious teen to an independent young man. 47 This Boy's Life was the first film that gained him recognition. 50 DiCaprio's first talk show appearance was in 1992 on The Loose Leaf Report, hosted by Victoria Looseleaf, who later wrote a 1998, unauthorized, biography on him. 51. DiCaprio played the developmentally disabled brother of Johnny Depp's character in What's Eating Gilbert Grape, 1993, a comedy drama about a dysfunctional Iowa family. Cotton Jones recommended DiCaprio to director Lasse Hallström, who was initially skeptical, as he considered DiCaprio too good-looking for the part. Hallström cast DiCaprio after he emerged as the most observant auditionee. 40-43 To ensure authenticity in his portrayal, DiCaprio studied similarly impaired children and their mannerisms, and Hallström allowed him to create the character using his own researched attributes. 52 The film became a critical success. 53 At age 19, DiCaprio earned a National Board of Review Award, as well as nominations for a Golden Globe Award and an Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor, making him the 7th youngest Oscar nominee in the category. 54-55 The film's real show-stopping turn comes from Mr. DiCaprio, wrote the New York Times critic Janet Maslin, who makes Arnie's many tics so startling and vivid that at first he is difficult to watch. The performance has a sharp, desperate intensity from beginning to end. 56. Karen James, also writing for the New York Times, said of his performances in This Boy's Life and What's Eating Gilbert Grape, he made the raw, emotional neediness of those boys completely natural and powerful. 57. DiCaprio's first role of 1995 was in Sam Raimi's western The Quick and the Dead. When Sony Pictures became dubious over DiCaprio's casting, co-star Sharon Stone paid his salary herself. 58 The film was released to dismal box office performance and mixed reviews from critics. 59-60 DiCaprio next starred as a teenage Jim Carroll, a drug-addicted high school basketball player and budding writer, in the biopic The Basketball Diaries. 61 He starred in the erotic drama Total Eclipse, 1995, driven by the desire to showcase an exceptional performance, which would focus on his acting talent rather than his much-discussed physical appeal. 62 Directed by Agnieszka Holland, it is a fictionalized account of the same-sex relationship between Arthur Rimbaud, DiCaprio, and Paul Verlaine, David Thewlis. DiCaprio was cast when River Phoenix died before filming began. 13 Although the film failed commercially. 63 It has been included in the catalog of the Warner Archive Collection, which releases classic and cult films from Warner Brothers' library on home video. 64 A review in the San Francisco Chronicle called DiCaprio his generation's great acting promise but criticized the mismatch between Thewlis's cultivated British accent and DiCaprio's Southern California twang. 65. DiCaprio next starred opposite Claire Danes in Baz Luhrmann's Romeo plus Juliet, 1996, an abridged modernization of William Shakespeare's romantic tragedy, which retained the original Shakespearean dialogue. DiCaprio was initially unsure about another Romeo and Juliet adaptation, but at his father's suggestion, he agreed to examine Luhrmann's work more closely. DiCaprio and Luhrmann then spent a 2-week workshop exchanging ideas, which led to the collaboration. 66 Romeo plus Juliet established DiCaprio as a leading Hollywood actor. According to film scholar Murray Pomerantz, DiCaprio's newfound popularity helped the film become profitable only days after its release. 67-68 Reviewing DiCaprio's early works, David Thompson of The Guardian called DiCaprio a revelation in What's Eating Gilbert Grape, very moving in This Boy's Life, suitably desperate in The Basketball Diaries, and a vital spark in Romeo plus Juliet. 69 The latter earned DiCaprio a Silver Bear for Best Actor at the 1997 Berlin International Film Festival. 70 He then portrayed a young man who has been committed to a mental asylum in Marvin's Room, 1996, a family drama about two estranged sisters, played by Meryl Streep and Diane Keaton, who are reunited through tragedy. He played Hank, the troubled son of Streep's character. 71 Lisa Schwartzbaum of Entertainment Weekly praised the deeply gifted DiCaprio for holding his own against veteran actresses Keaton and Streep, describing the three as full-bodied and so powerfully affecting that you're carried along on the pleasure of being in the presence of their extraordinary talent. 72. 1997 to 2001, Titanic and worldwide recognition. Leo Maney redirects here. DiCaprio rejected a role in Boogie Nights, 1997, to star opposite Kate Winslet in James Cameron's Titanic as members of different social classes who fall in love aboard RMS Titanic. 73 DiCaprio had doubts, but was encouraged by Cameron to pursue the part. 74 With a production budget of more than $200 million 76 Titanic was the most expensive in history at the time. 77 It became the highest grossing film at the time, earning more than $2.1 billion in box office receipts worldwide. It won 11 Academy Awards, the most wins for any film including Best Picture. DiCaprio's failure to gain a nomination led to a protest against the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences by more than 200 fans. 81 He was nominated for other high-profile awards, including a Golden Globe Award for Best Actor. 82 A photograph of Leonardo DiCaprio attending a press conference for The Beach. DiCaprio at a press conference for The Beach in 2000. Titanic transformed DiCaprio into a superstar, drawing adoration among teenage girls and young women that became known as Leomania. 83-84 The success bolstered DiCaprio's standing as a teen idol and romantic lead, an image from which he sought to dissociate himself. 84 Despite the film's success and its positive influence on his career, in 2025 DiCaprio said he regretted the decision to turn down Boogie Nights, saying it was a profound movie of my generation. 85 In his 2015 Rolling Stone article, Eberai called the Titanic role DiCaprio's best, writing that he and Winslet infused their earnest back and forth with so much genuine emotion that it's hard not to get swept up in their doomed love affair. 47 A writer for Vanity Fair in 2008 labeled them Hollywood's most iconic screen couple since Humphrey Bogart and Ingrid Bergman. 86 Writing about her first viewing of Titanic in 2017, Vox contributor Alyssa Wilkinson described DiCaprio's boyish charm and found his performance natural and unaffected. 87 DiCaprio had a brief featured role in Woody Allen's 1998 satire of fame, Celebrity. Eberai labeled DiCaprio the best thing in the film. 47-88 That year, he also took on the dual roles of villainous King Louis XIV and his secret, sympathetic twin brother Philippe in Randall Wallace's The Man in the Iron Mask, with common elements from the 1939 film and a 1929 film with Douglas Fairbanks. 89 It received mixed reviews. 90 but grossed $180 million against a budget of $35 million. 91-92 Entertainment Weekly critic Owen Gleiberman wrote that DiCaprio did not look old enough to play the part, but praised him as a fluid and instinctive actor, with the face of a mischievous angel. 93 The Guardian's Alex von Tunzelmann was similarly impressed with the actor's performance but found his talent wasted in the film. 94 DiCaprio won a Golden Raspberry Award for Worst Screen Couple for the dual roles in 1999. 95 Following the release of Titanic, and The Man in the Iron Mask, DiCaprio chose to reduce his workload to learn to hear his own voice in choosing the roles that he wanted to pursue. 96 He said in 2000, "I have no connection with me during that whole Titanic phenomenon and what my face became around the world. I'll never reach that state of popularity again, and I don't expect to. It's not something I'm going to try to achieve either." 97 DiCaprio was next cast to star in an earlier version of American Psycho, 2000, for a reported salary of $20 million. After disagreements with Oliver Stone on the film's direction, DiCaprio left the project, taking the lead role in The Beach instead. 98 Adapted from Alex Garland's 1996 novel, the film saw him play a backpacking American tourist who ends up in a secret island commune in the Gulf of Thailand. 99 Budgeted at $50 million, the film earned almost 3 times that at the box office 100 but was negatively reviewed by critics, and earned him a nomination for the Golden Raspberry Award for Worst Actor. 101-102 Todd McCarthy of Variety thought DiCaprio gave a compelling performance but his character lacked defining qualities. 103 The film received criticism for damaging the filming location in Thailand, after which DiCaprio worked to restore the area. 104 After shooting The Beach, DiCaprio auditioned for Lerman's Moulin Rouge. 2001, but was rejected. He later asserted it was due to his poor singing abilities. 105, 106, 107, 108. In the mid-1990s, DiCaprio agreed to be in the mostly improvised black and white short film Don's Plum as a favor to aspiring director R.D. Robb. 27 When Robb expanded it to a full-length film in the early 2000s to capitalize on the success of DiCaprio and co-star Tobey Maguire, DiCaprio-Maguire had its release blocked in the US and Canada by court order, arguing they never intended to make a feature film. The film premiered at the 2001 Berlin International Film Festival but remains obscure. 109. 2002 to 2009, work with Martin Scorsese and film production. See also, Martin Scorsese and Leonardo DiCaprio and Appian Way Productions. A photograph Leonardo DiCaprio with Martin Scorsese and Cameron Diaz, from left to right, surrounded by the paparazzi. DiCaprio attending an event for Gangs of New York with Martin Scorsese and Cameron Diaz at the 2002 Cannes Film Festival. DiCaprio turned down the role of Anakin Skywalker in Star Wars, Episode 2, Attack of the Clones, 2002, feeling unprepared to take that dive at the time. 110 His first film that year was the biopic Catch Me If You Can, based on the life of Frank Abagnale Jr., who before his 19th birthday committed check fraud to make millions in the 1960s. 111 Directed by Steven Spielberg, the film was shot across 147 different locations in 52 days, making it the most adventurous, supercharged movie-making DiCaprio had experienced yet. 112 The film received critical acclaim and grossed $355 million against a budget of $52 million, becoming his second highest grossing release after Titanic. 113-114 Roger Ebert praised his departure from dark and troubled characters. 111 and 2 Entertainment Weekly critics in 2018 called it DiCaprio's best role, labeling him delightfully persuasive, deceptive, flirtatious, and sometimes tragic, and we dare you to find a better role, if you can. 115 DiCaprio received his third Golden Globe nomination for his performance in the film. 116. Also in 2002, DiCaprio starred in Martin Scorsese's Gangs of New York, a historical drama set in the mid-19th century in the Five Points district of New York City. Scorsese initially struggled selling his idea of realizing the film until DiCaprio became interested in starring in the film, and thus Miramax Films got involved with financing the project. Nonetheless, production on the film was plagued by overshooting of budgets and producer-director disagreements, resulting in an 8-month shoot. With a budget of $103 million, the film was the most expensive Scorsese had ever made. DiCaprio was drawn to playing Amsterdam Balin, the young leader of an Irish-American street gang, as it marked a shift from boyish roles to a mature leading man. 117 Gangs of New York earned $193 million worldwide and received positive critical response. 118-119 and Thompson of The Observer took note of DiCaprio's low-key, sturdy performance, but felt that co-star Daniel Day-Lewis overshadowed him. 120. In 2004, DiCaprio founded the production company Appian Way Productions, a namesake of the Italian road. 121 He was interested in finding unique source material and preserving its essence during development, citing previous experiences where the involvement of too many people influenced the final product in a negative way. 122 DiCaprio first executive produced The Assassination of Richard Nixon, which starred Sean Penn as Samuel Byck 46 and was screened at the 2004 Cannes Film Festival. 123 DiCaprio and Scorsese reunited for a biopic of Howard Hughes, an American film director and aviation pioneer suffering from obsessive-compulsive disorder, in The Aviator, 2004, which DiCaprio also co-produced under Appian Way. He initially developed the project with Michael Mann, who was eventually replaced by Scorsese. 124-125 The Aviator became a critical and financial success, grossing $213 million against its budget of $110 million. 126-127 Simon Brand of Empire thought DiCaprio convincingly played a complex role and highlighted the scenes depicting Hughes's paranoia and obsession. 128 He received his first Golden Globe Award for Best Actor Motion Picture Drama and nominations for an Academy Award, a BAFTA Award and a Screen Actors Guild Award. 129. In 2006, DiCaprio starred in the crime film The Departed and the political war thriller Blood Diamond. In Scorsese's The Departed, DiCaprio played the role of Billy Costigan, a state trooper working undercover in the Irish mob in Boston, someone he characterizes as being in a constant 24-hour panic attack. DiCaprio especially liked the experience of working with co-star Jack Nicholson, describing a scene with him as one of the most memorable moments of his life as an actor. 130 In preparation, he visited Boston to interact with people associated with the Irish mob and gained 15 pounds, 6.8 kilograms, of muscle. 131 Critically acclaimed 132 The film grossed $291 million against a budget of $90 million, becoming DiCaprio and Scorsese's highest-grossing collaboration to that point. 133-114 Peter Travers of Rolling Stone praised DiCaprio's and co-star Matt Damon's performances as explosive, emotionally complex, but felt that Nicholson overshadowed the two. 134 Despite DiCaprio's leading role in The Departed, the film's distributor Warner Bros. Pictures submitted his performance for a Best Supporting Actor nomination at the AMPAs to avoid internal conflict with his part in Blood Diamond. 135 Instead, his co-star Mark Wahlberg was nominated, though DiCaprio earned other accolades for The Departed, including a Satellite Award for Best Supporting Actor and Best Actor nominations at the Golden Globes and BAFTA Awards. 136. In Blood Diamond, DiCaprio starred as a diamond smuggler from Rhodesia who is involved in the Sierra Leone Civil War. While filming, he worked with 24 orphaned children from the SOS Children's Village in Maputo, Mozambique, and said he was touched by his interactions with them. 137 To prepare, he spent 6 months in Africa, learned about camouflage from people in South African military and interviewed and recorded people in the country to improve his accent. 138 The film received generally favorable reviews. 139 And DiCaprio was noted for his South African accent, which is generally known as difficult to imitate. 140 Claudia Puig of the USA Today approvingly highlighted DiCaprio's transition from a boy to a man on screen. 141 And Ann Hornaday of the Washington Post similarly noted his growth as an actor since The Departed. 142 DiCaprio received nominations for an Academy Award and a Golden Globe for Blood Diamond. 136. In 2007, DiCaprio produced the comedy drama Gardener of Eden, which according to The Hollywood Reporter's Frank Scheck lacked the necessary dramatic urgency or black humor to connect with audiences. 143 Later that year, he produced, co-wrote and narrated The 11th Hour, a documentary on the state of the natural environment that won the Earthwatch Environmental Film Award in 2008. 144 DiCaprio's Appian Way produced Planet Green's Greensburg, 2008 to 2010, which ran for 3 seasons. Set in Greensburg, Kansas, it is about rebuilding the town in a sustainable way after being hit by the 2007 Greensburg tornado. 145 Also in 2008, DiCaprio starred in Body of Lies, a spy film based on the novel of the same name. He played one of 3 agents battling a terrorist organization in the Middle East. 146 Considering the film to be a throwback to political features of the 1970s like The Parallax View, 1974, and 3 Days of the Condor, 1975, DiCaprio dyed his hair brown and wore brown contacts for the role. 146. The film received mixed reviews from critics. 147 and grossed $118 million against a budget of $67.5 million. 148. Later in 2008, DiCaprio collaborated with Kate Winslet for the drama Revolutionary Road, directed by her then-husband Sam Mendes. As both actors had been reluctant to make romantic films similar to Titanic, it was Winslet who suggested that they both work with her on a film adaptation of the 1961 eponymous novel by Richard Yates. She found that the script, by Justin Haythe, had little in common with the 1997 blockbuster. 149. Playing a couple in a failing marriage in the 1950s, DiCaprio and Winslet spent some time together in preparation, and DiCaprio felt claustrophobic on the small set they used. 86. 150. He saw his character as unheroic, slightly cowardly and someone willing to be just a product of his environment. 151. Peter Travers liked DiCaprio's pairing with Winslet and his multi-layered portrayal of an overwhelmed character. 152. And Marshall Sella of GQ called it the most mature and memorable performance of his lifetime. 150. DiCaprio earned his 7th Golden Globes nomination for the film. 153. Revolutionary Road grossed $75.9 million against its budget of $35 million. 154. He ended the 2000s by producing director Jaume Collet-Serra's psychological horror thriller film Orphan, 2009, starring Vera Farmiga, Peter Sarsgaard, and Isabelle Fuhrman. Although the film received mixed reviews, it was a commercial success. 155. 2010 to 2013, films with high-profile directors. DiCaprio continued to collaborate with Scorsese in the 2010 psychological thriller film Shutter Island, based on the 2003 novel of the same name by Dennis Lehane. He played Edward Teddy Daniels, a U.S. Marshal investigating a psychiatric facility located on an island, who comes to question his own sanity. DiCaprio and Scorsese became interested in the project in 2007, and the former co-produced the film under Appian Way with Phoenix Pictures. 156. Because of the film's disturbing scenes, DiCaprio had nightmares of mass murder during production and considered relaxing with his friends a form of therapy. 157. The film was released to mixed reviews. 158. Peter Bradshaw of The Guardian praised Scorsese's direction and the acting but criticized its twist ending. 159. Peter Travers called it DiCaprio's most haunting and emotionally complex performance yet, and particularly liked his cave scene with co-star Patricia Clarkson. 160. The film was a commercial success, grossing $294 million worldwide against a budget of $80 million. 161. A photograph of 7 people on stage, except for Leonardo DiCaprio on the right, they are all clapping cheerfully. DiCaprio, first from the right, with the cast of Inception at the film's premiere in 2010. DiCaprio's second role in 2010 was in Christopher Nolan's critically acclaimed ensemble science fiction film Inception. 162. Inspired by the experience of lucid dreaming and dream incubation. 163. The film features Dom Cobb, DiCaprio, an extractor who enters the dreams of others to obtain information that is otherwise inaccessible. Cobb is promised a chance to regain his old life in exchange for planting an idea in a corporate target's mind. 164. DiCaprio was fascinated with the idea of a dream heist and the potential for his character to manipulate his dream world and impact his real life. 165. Made on a budget of $160 million, the film grossed $836 million worldwide to become DiCaprio's second highest grossing film. 114. 166. To star in this film, DiCaprio agreed to a pay cut from his $20 million fee and opted for a share in first dollar gross points, which entitled him to a percentage of the cinema ticket sales. The risk proved fruitful, as DiCaprio earned $50 million from the film, becoming his highest payday yet. 167. DiCaprio starred as J. Edgar Hoover in Clint Eastwood's J. Edgar, 2011. A biopic about Hoover, the film focuses on his career as an FBI director, including an examination of his private life as an alleged closeted homosexual. 168 critics felt that the film lacked coherence overall but commended DiCaprio's performance. 170 Roger Ebert praised DiCaprio's ability to bring depth and nuance to the character, suggesting that his performance conveyed aspects of Hoover's personality that were possibly even unknown to the man himself. 171 Also in 2011, he produced Catherine Hardwicke's romantic horror film Red Riding Hood. Though it was named one of the 10 worst films of 2011 by Time magazine 172, it had moderate box office returns. 173 Also that year, DiCaprio's Appian Way produced George Clooney's political drama The Ides of March, an adaptation of Beau Willimon's 2008 play Farragut North. 174. In 2012, DiCaprio starred as plantation owner Calvin Candy in Quentin Tarantino's spaghetti western, Django Unchained. After reading the script, DiCaprio felt uncomfortable with the extent of racism portrayed in the film, but his co-stars and Tarantino convinced him not to sugarcoat it. 175 While filming, DiCaprio accidentally cut his hand on glass, but continued filming, and Tarantino elected to use the take in the final product. 176 The film received critical acclaim. 177 A writer for Wired magazine commended him for playing a villainous role and found his performance blood-chilling. 178 The film earned DiCaprio a Golden Globe Award nomination for Best Supporting Actor. 179 Django Unchained grossed $425 million worldwide on a production budget of $100 million. 180. In January 2013, DiCaprio said he would take a long break from acting to fly around the world doing good for the environment. 181 That year, he had 4 releases as an actor and a producer. His first was in the role of millionaire Jay Gatsby in Baz Luhrmann's The Great Gatsby, an adaptation of F. Scott Fitzgerald's 1925 novel of the same name, co-starring Carey Mulligan and Tobey Maguire. 182 The film received mixed reviews from critics, but DiCaprio's performance was praised and earned him the IACTA Award for Best Actor in a Leading Role. 184 Critic Rafer Guzman of Newsday wrote that DiCaprio was not only tough, but also vulnerable, touching, funny, a faker, a human. It's a tremendous, hard-won performance. 185. Matt Zoller Cites of Roger Ebert's website described his performance as the movie's greatest and simplest special effect, and iconic, maybe his career best. 186 The film grossed $353 million worldwide, more than 3 times its budget. 187 3 films were produced by DiCaprio under Appian Way in 2013. The ensemble crime thriller Runner, which The Guardian's Zan Brooks described as a lazy, trashy film that barely goes through the motions. 188 The commercially failed thriller Out of the Furnace, and the black comedy drama The Wolf of Wall Street. 189 190. DiCaprio reunited with Scorsese for the 5th time in The Wolf of the Wall Street, a film based on the life of stockbroker Jordan Belfort, played by DiCaprio, who was arrested in the late 1990s for securities fraud and money laundering. 191 192 DiCaprio wanted to play Belfort ever since he had read his autobiography and won a bidding war with Warner Brothers against Brad Pitt and Paramount Pictures for the rights to Belfort's memoir in 2007. 193 194 He was fond of Belfort's honest and unapologetic portrayal of his actual experiences in the book, and was inspired by the 2008 financial crisis to make the film. 122 The Wolf of Wall Street received positive reviews for Scorsese's and DiCaprio's work together. 195 The Hollywood Reporter's Todd McCarthy lauded DiCaprio for fully realizing his character's potential with a carefree performance. 196 Jonathan Romney of Film Comment wrote that DiCaprio displays a great deal of comedic talent, excelling in rubber-limbed slapstick humor. 197 The film earned him the Golden Globe Award for Best Actor, Motion Picture Musical or Comedy and nominations for a BAFTA Award for Best Actor in a Leading Role, as well as Academy Awards for Best Actor and Best Picture. 198 199 2014, present, environmental documentaries and awards success. DiCaprio in 2014. DiCaprio was an executive producer on Virunga, a 2014 British documentary film about 4 people fighting to protect the world's last mountain gorillas from war and poaching. 200 The film premiered at the Tribeca Film Festival in April 2014. 201 and DiCaprio was nominated for the 2015 Primetime Emmy Award for Outstanding Documentary or Nonfiction Special. 202 Cowspiracy, The Sustainability Secret was another documentary film that year for which he was an executive producer. He took part in the new cut released exclusively on Netflix that September. 203 It explores the impact of animal agriculture on the environment. 204 DiCaprio is a patron of the Gorilla Organization, a UK-based charity continuing Dian Fossey's work to protect gorillas in the Virungas. 205 In 2015, DiCaprio produced and played for trapper Hugh Glass in Alejandro G. Inarritu's survival drama The Revenant. DiCaprio found his role in the film difficult. He had to eat a raw slab of bison's liver and sleep in animal carcasses. 206 207 He also learned to shoot a musket, build a fire, speak 2 Native American languages, Pawnee and Arikara, and apply ancient healing techniques. 206 Built on a budget of $135 million, the film earned $533 million worldwide. 208 The film received positive reviews with particular praise for DiCaprio's acting. 209 Mark Kermode of The Guardian wrote that DiCaprio shone with a performance that prioritizes physicality over speech. 210 and Nick de Semlyen of Empire noted that he uplifted the film. 211 The film earned him numerous awards, including the Academy Award, BAFTA, Critics' Choice, Golden Globe, and SAG Award for Best Actor. 212 213 214 For the next 3 years, DiCaprio narrated documentaries and served as a producer for films. In 2016, he was an executive producer for The Ivory Game and Catching the Sun 190. He also produced, hosted, and narrated the documentary Before the Flood about climate change. 215 He produced the crime drama Live by Night, 2016, which received unenthusiastic reviews and failed to recoup its $65 million production budget. 190 216 His next production ventures were in 2018 the psychological horror Delirium and the commercially failed action adventure Robin Hood. 217 218 After producing and narrating the 2019 global warming documentary Ice on Fire. 219 DiCaprio returned to acting following a 4-year break in Quentin Tarantino's comedy drama Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, which traces the relationship between Rick Dalton, DiCaprio, an aging television actor, and his stuntman, Cliff Booth, Brad Pitt. 220 To help the film's financing, DiCaprio and Pitt agreed to take a pay cut, and they each received $10 million. 221 DiCaprio liked working with Pitt, and Tarantino described the pair as the most exciting since Robert Redford and Paul Newman. 222 223 DiCaprio was fascinated with the film's homage to Hollywood and focus on the friendship between his and Pitt's characters. He drew from real-life experience of witnessing the struggles and rejections of his actor friends in the industry. 223 The film premiered at the 2019 Cannes Film Festival, where critics praised his and Pitt's performances. 224 A writer for Business Insider called it one of the best performances of DiCaprio's career. 225 And Ian Sandwell of Digital Spy particularly liked the duo's chemistry, believing their scenes together to be some of the film's strongest parts. 226 DiCaprio received nominations for an Oscar, a Golden Globe, a BAFTA Award and a Screen Actors Guild Award for Best Actor. 227 The film earned $374 million against a budget of $90 million. 228. In 2020, DiCaprio served as an executive producer for The Right Stuff, a television series adaptation of the 1973 namesake book. After being in development at National Geographic, it was released on Disney+. 229 That May, DiCaprio briefly featured in the finale of the miniseries The Last Dance. 230 In 2021, DiCaprio appeared in Adam McKay's satirical comedy Don't Look Up. He spent 5 months changing the film's script with McKay before agreeing to the part. 231 Starring alongside Jennifer Lawrence as two astronomers attempting to warn humanity about an extinction-level comet, DiCaprio saw this film as an analogy of the world's indifference to the climate crisis. As a frequent supporter of environmentalism, DiCaprio said he has often looked to star in and make films tackling issues related to it, something he found hard due to people's inability to listen. He praised McKay for envisioning a project on how humans would react to a serious issue from a political, social, and scientific standpoint. 232 While reviews for the film were mixed, most critics praised DiCaprio's and Lawrence's performances. 233 Journalists from Digital Spy and NDTV lauded their pairing. 234 235 DiCaprio earned nominations for a Golden Globe and a BAFTA Award for the film. 236 237 It broke the record for the most views, 152 million hours, in a single week in Netflix history. 238 DiCaprio next starred in Scorsese's crime drama Killers of the Flower Moon, 2023, based on the book of the same name by David Grant. 239 For which he was paid $30 million. 240 Initially signed for the heroic part of FBI agent Thomas Bruce White Sr., DiCaprio insisted on playing the morally complex role of murderer Ernest Burkhart, leading to extensive script rewrites. 241 242 Declaring it the best performance of DiCaprio's career, IndieWire's David Ehrlich wrote that his nuanced and uncompromising turn as the cretinous Ernest Burkhart mines new wonders from the actor's long-standing lack of vanity. 243 He received another Golden Globe nomination for his performance. 244 DiCaprio next starred in Paul Thomas Anderson's film One Battle After Another, 2025, alongside Sean Penn and Regina Hall. 245 For his role as a washed-up ex-revolutionary, he received his 7th Academy Award acting nomination. 246 In December 2025, DiCaprio confirmed he has been cast in an undisclosed role in Michael Mann's planned sequel to the 1995 film Heat. 247 As of February 2026, DiCaprio began shooting What Happens at Night, helmed by Martin Scorsese, also starring Jennifer Lawrence and Mads Mikkelsen. 248 Reception and acting style. Early in his career, DiCaprio gained a reputation for his reckless behavior and intense partying with a group of male celebrities dubbed the Pussy Posse in the 1990s. 43 249 In an infamous article published by New York Magazine in 1998, journalist Nancy Jo Sales criticized the group as men whose pursuit was to chase girls, pick fights and not tip the waitress. 250 While parachuting, DiCaprio almost got himself and friend Justin Harewick killed when his parachute failed to open, after which his instructor opened the reserve parachute. In response, DiCaprio said he is fond of doing things that scare him. John McCain, who was a United States Senator for Arizona, called him an androgynous wimp. 249 DiCaprio found people's perception of him exaggerated, adding, "They want you miserable, just like them. They don't want heroes, what they want is to see you fall." 13. Steven Spielberg, who directed him in Catch Me If You Can, defended DiCaprio's reputation as a party boy. believing it is a common behavior for young people and describing him as a family-oriented person during the film's production. 251 Considering DiCaprio to be conscious of his public reputation, the New York Times' Karen James credited him as one of the few actors to use his celebrity to further social causes. 57 Carol Cadwalladr of The Guardian wrote that DiCaprio is polite, charming, makes jokes, engages eye contact, and manages to give almost no hint whatsoever of his actual personality. 252. Life can get pretty monotonous. Acting is like living multiple lives. When you make a movie, you go off to different places, live different cultures, investigate somebody else's reality, and you try to manifest that to the best of your ability. It is incredibly eye-opening. That's why I love acting. There's nothing as transformative as what a film, a documentary, can do to get people to care about something else besides their own lives. DiCaprio on his love of acting. 24. DiCaprio is regarded as one of the finest actors of his generation. In a 2022 readers' poll by Empire, he was voted one of the 50 greatest actors of all time. The magazine praised his willingness to go to the ends of the earth, often literally, to get under his character's skin. 257 Colin Covert of the Seattle Times similarly believed DiCaprio redefines film stardom through his willingness to take on challenging roles that few of his contemporaries are capable of performing. 258. Since his international stardom with Titanic, 1997, he has admitted feeling nervous about starring in big-budget studio films because of their hype and marketing campaigns. As an actor, he views film as a relevant art form, like a painting or sculpture. 100 years from now, people will still be watching that movie. 4. He often plays roles based on real-life people and stories told in specific periods. 24. 259 According to Karen James, DiCaprio is unafraid of working with established directors on unconventional projects. Taking such risks has led him to star in failed films like The Beach, 2000, 57, but also his successful collaborations with Martin Scorsese. 260. 261 DiCaprio has described his relationship with Scorsese as dreamlike and admires his knowledge of film, crediting the director with having taught him its history and importance. 252 Scorsese has commented on DiCaprio's ability to repeatedly demonstrate emotion on screen. 262 Jesse Hassanger of the AV Club considers the duo's collaborations which earned them the 2013 National Board of Review Spotlight Award, 263 to be career-defining moments for both of them and as vital as Scorsese's acclaimed collaborations with Robert De Niro. 264. Author Michael K. Hammond wrote that DiCaprio built his star reputation by demonstrating his acting ability, and praised him for revealing a character while concealing the actor and disappearing into his roles. 265 According to Agnieszka Holland, who directed DiCaprio in Total Eclipse, 1995, DiCaprio is one of the most mature actors she has worked with and is courageous in his choice of roles. 266 Holland remarked that he does not rely on method acting but rather on a trick that allows him to truly become the character. 266 His Marvin's Room co-star Meryl Streep said that DiCaprio possesses the kind of unpredictability that makes his career difficult to classify, his life precarious and his work thrilling. 67 Analyzing DiCaprio's career, film critic Philip French identified a theme of characters who are still in the process of becoming a man and suggested that the actor's propensity for films about dysfunctional families and characters seeking father figures alludes to his own troubled childhood. 252 DiCaprio often plays characters who themselves are playing roles, which Karen James says looks simple on screen but requires sophisticated acting. 57 He tends to play anti-heroes and characters who lose their mental stability as the narrative progresses. 267 268 Derek Thompson of The Atlantic argued that DiCaprio gives his best performances when playing frauds and cheats and double-crossing liars and mercenaries. 267. Several media publications, such as People 269, Empire 270 and Harper's Bazaar 271 have included DiCaprio in their listings of the most attractive actors. In 1998, he sued Playgirl magazine over plans to publish a fully nude picture of him. 272 He has said he does not believe in focusing on appearance, as this is only temporary and can negatively affect one's profession in the industry, and looks for career longevity instead. 273 In 2005, DiCaprio was made a Commander of the Ordre des Arts et des Lettres by the French Minister of Culture for his contributions to the arts. 274 In 2016, he was named one of the 100 most influential people in the world by Time magazine. 275 He was included on Forbes' annual list of the world's highest paid actors in 2008 and from 2010 to 2016, with respective earnings of $45 million, $28 million, $77 million, $37 million, $39 million, $39 million, $29 million, and $27 million, topping the list in 2011. The magazine has commended DiCaprio's ability to star in risky, R-rated films that become box office successes. 276 The Hollywood Reporter listed him as one of the 100 most powerful people in entertainment from 2016 to 2019. 277 A writer for the same magazine credits DiCaprio as the rare actor to have a successful career without ever having made a comic book movie, family film, or pre-branded franchise. Leo is the franchise. 278. Stacey Wilson Hunt, analyzing his career in New York Magazine in 2016, opined DiCaprio, unlike most of his contemporaries, had not starred in a bad film in the previous 10 years. 266 Of his success, DiCaprio says, "My attitude is the same as when I started. I feel very connected to that 15-year-old kid who got his first movie." 223. DiCaprio has named Robert De Niro and James Dean as two of his favorite and most influential actors, stating, "There were a lot of great actors I really fell in love with, but if I were to pick two, from different generations, it would be De Niro and James Dean." 220 When asked about a performance that stayed with him the most, DiCaprio responded, "I remember being incredibly moved by Jimmy Dean, in East of Eden. There was something so raw and powerful about that performance. His vulnerability, his confusion about his entire history, his identity, his desperation to be loved. That performance just broke my heart." 279. Other ventures. Activism. Climate change is real, it is happening right now. It is the most urgent threat facing our entire species, and we need to work collectively together and stop procrastinating. We need to support leaders around the world who do not speak for the big polluters, but who speak for all of humanity, for the indigenous people of the world, for the billions and billions of underprivileged people out there who would be most affected by this. For our children's children, and for those people out there whose voices have been drowned out by the politics of greed. DiCaprio during his acceptance speech at the 88th Academy Awards, 2016. 280. An active celebrity in the climate change movement. 281 DiCaprio believes global warming is the world's #1 environmental challenge. 282 Eager to learn about ecology from an early age, he would watch documentaries on rainforest depletion and the loss of species and habitats. 283 In 1998, he established the Leonardo DiCaprio Foundation, a non-profit organization devoted to promoting environmental awareness. 284 It supports organizations and campaigns committed to ensuring a viable future for planet Earth, and produced the short web documentaries Water Planet and Global Warming. 285 The foundation has also funded Debt for Nature swaps. 286 By 2018, the foundation had funded more than 200 projects, providing $100 million in support. 287 He has been an active supporter of numerous environmental organizations and sat on the board of the World Wildlife Fund and International Fund for Animal Welfare. 285 288 DiCaprio has owned environment-friendly electric hybrid vehicles. 289 His use of private jets and large yachts have been criticized as hypocritical due to their large carbon footprints. 290 291 DiCaprio chaired the National Earth Day celebration in 2000 where he interviewed Bill Clinton and they discussed plans to deal with global warming and the environment. 292 He presented at the 2007 American Leg of Live Earth. 293 DiCaprio donated $1 million to the Wildlife Conservation Society at Russia's Tiger Summit. DiCaprio's persistence in reaching the event after encountering 2 plane delays caused then Prime Minister Vladimir Putin to describe him as a mujik or real man. 294 295 In 2013, he organized a benefit fine art auction, 11th Hour, which raised nearly $38.8 million for his foundation. 296 In September 2014, United Nations Secretary-General Ban Ki-moon designated DiCaprio as a United Nations Messenger of Peace with a focus on climate change. 297 298 Later that month, he made an opening statement to members of the UN Climate Summit. His speech reached an estimated 1 billion people worldwide. 299 300 In 2015, he announced his intention to divest from fossil fuels. 301 He again spoke at the UN in April 2016 prior to the signing of the Paris Climate Change Agreement. 302 A photograph of John Kerry, left, and Leonardo DiCaprio both dressed in suits and looking away from the camera. U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry and DiCaprio at the Our Ocean Conference in 2016. At a 2016 meeting with Pope Francis, DiCaprio donated to charity and discussed environmental issues with him. A few days later, possibly influenced by this meeting, the Pope said he would act in a charity film.